Hi everyone, welcome to Behind the Bars TV, podcast season number 2. The ones that have been following my channel will know about all the podcasts that I've done lately. Well, not lately, the ones that I've done since the channel started. And I've covered quite a lot, but I am doing more podcasts. And if you have been watching them, you'll see the podcast I've done with my lovely wife, who is Michaela.
Hi.
So I thought no better way to start it off than to do with my lovely wife talking about being the wife of a prisoner serving IPP, the effects that it has on the family, the effects that it has on the wives and the ones left at home suffering of the sentence that we were serving. But before I get into it, when I say we were serving, I'm now officially off IPP. I'm IPP free, it's been terminated.
Free at last.
Free at last. And we are actually here in Portugal, Albufeira, where we're doing this podcast together. We thought we're better to do it than on our first holiday abroad when we don't have a license hanging over our heads. And as I say we, because the wife is suffering or has suffered as well. And I'm not coming on here pretending to be a victim with a victim mentality saying we have suffered. I'm talking about the injustice of the IPP and bringing it to light for the rest still serving the sentence and let everyone at home know what the IPP is all about. But for the ones that are new to the channel and have never heard of the IPP, which a large proportion of the general public don't even know anything about the IPP, it stands for Imprisonment for Public Protection, a 99-year sentence that was abolished in 2012 as it was deemed inhumane, but all the ones who were given the sentence before it was abolished are still stuck with it, still serving it. So I'm bringing it to light for the remaining IPPs and the ones still suffering this inhumane sentence. But I'm going to hand over to my beautiful wife, so you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm Ricky's wife, obviously. And we're free at last. Free, because I've been there the whole time and it's been torture like.
But what I'll do, because that's what I do with my podcast, obviously I'll lead the way and just ask questions, so as my podcast guests don't get stalled, because there's a lot of people don't realise when you come on here and do these videos, it is, if you're not used to doing them and you've never done videos before, it is quite tricky talking into a camera thinking that thousands of people are going to be viewing
Just
this.
a bit.
So I do lead the way and put me guests at ease, even though it's my wife. I'll put her at ease.
Thank God.
And we'll lead the way. So we will talk a little bit about our background first of all, because like I mentioned, we've done a podcast maybe over a year ago now, and it did have a lot of views and a lot of good feedback on it. But like I mentioned, the ones new to the channel, so we're just going to talk a little bit about where we grew up. So whereabouts were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born at Shotley Bridge Hospital and I grew up in Stanley. I've lived there all my life. Still there.
So I was born in Elsick, Newcastle. Well, I was born in Newcastle General Hospital, but I was brought up in Elsick for the first 5 years of my life. But it was a rough old place. There was Elsick riots were kicking off. So my mum and dad moved me over to South Stanley because we had family over there to give us a bit of a better life. But the place that we moved into was a right dive as well. And it was a rundown area, full of trouble, full of aggro. But being a young kid living in that environment, it was quite fun and enjoyable. And obviously Michaela was brought up in the same area.
Grew up with him as well. Knew him since I was 12.
So we started dating around about 18-year-old. And it wasn't until I was in prison when we got serious, when I was in prison serving the IPP. Beautiful wife stuck by us. Obviously it was just my girlfriend at the time. Went on to get married. But I'll cut to the chase. Obviously the ones that have seen the first podcast we've done together. If you haven't, I will put the link at the end so you can go and watch it.
You can watch it all back.
But what has it been like for you as a wife of someone serving the IPP, and what did you witness and what effects did it have on you?
It was absolute torture, the whole thing. The messing with his hairs, the messing with my head, They were not one bit helpful. Like to me, like when I was asking them questions and stuff, they're just really like not helpful one bit. But the sentence itself was bad enough for me, but when I had kids, like when we had kids, it was even worse. Because when he got recalled, they were crying saying, "When's my dad home?" And I couldn't even tell them when he was home. It was absolutely horrendous. The whole sentence was horrendous. Like not knowing like when he's out or when he's coming home or anything.
But what she's referring to when she says when she was asking for answers, the probation officer that recalled me was
she was the worst.
Absolute dog. And from the moment I got her, things just started going south.
She was
because,
horrible.
like you say, she wasn't there to help. She wasn't there to rehabilitate. She was there to poison and destroy. That was her mission. She was an absolute dog.
She recalled him. Now I rang her. I'm still waiting for her to ring us back now. I was crying down the phone to her saying, "What's he been recalled for?" 3 weeks before Christmas as well. And she went, "Yeah, I don't know, I'll ring you back." And I was crying. She still didn't even ring us back to tell us it was his solicitor Amy who told us what he'd been recalled for. She was she was the worst one I've ever met, really.
Well, she was an ex-copper, and obviously when she come across me, she just took an instant dislike.
She didn't like me either, I didn't know why.
Because from the moment I got out of my IPP of 2010, after serving just over 5 years, when I was released, I had inheritance, so I set up my own business, and I was successful. I had my own money, had my own business, had 3 different businesses, and when I was going into probation, she just didn't like me one bit. She was looking at me as though I was doing something else. I was someone that come in, I had money, I didn't need help from them, and she took an instant dislike. And like I say, my visits went down to every 6 months. When I first got out of jail, it was every week, as you do, you're high risk, so it's every week, then once a month, every 2 weeks, sorry, then once a month, then I went to every 3 months, then I was on every 6 months, so I was on 2 visits a year. I didn't even get to the 6 months when she called us in the office saying she had to put us back on weekly appointments because she just took on my case and she wanted to get to know me. So I went from every 6 months to every week just so she could put her fucking nose in and try and disrupt our family life and disrupt my mental health, mental torture, what she was doing to me. And at the time I was already suffering because of my best friend had committed suicide, and I was getting no help. I got offered no help whatsoever. Not that I needed her help, but I was offered no help.
She just made you worse?
She made us worse. She made us go in on myself. I was already suffering with depression because of it, but I couldn't open up and tell her because of the way she was. And if I went and said to her, "I'm suffering mentally because of what I've witnessed," she would have recalled us just for that. She was looking for an excuse.
She did it on purpose. She tried to mentally torture him. She was horrendous. She came to do a home visit. One of the kids spoke to her. She didn't even say hello. She couldn't take her eyes off like the furniture and stuff, could she? Poking her nose around the house and stuff like that. She was the worst one. But for me to ring her 3 weeks before Christmas crying, and she still had no emotion towards me whatsoever or him, she was horrible.
But obviously probation are used to go into people's houses when the places are an absolute dump, the social are involved with them, but because we're good parents, we've got a respectable family life, we've had good morals being brought up, even though I was the way I was and I was a violent
good morals,
young man, I've always been polite and had morals, always had a clean house, always washed up after ourselves. So when they have come into our house, saying they wanted to do a home visit to be nosy to see what was going on,
she couldn't take eyes off
they've come into a nice clean house, nice furniture, nice wallpaper, and they were saying, comments like this, "That must have been expensive, that wallpaper."
When did you get that?
Like stuff like that, like derogatory, like saying that as if we didn't deserve it. We worked for the fucker. She's worked all of our life in a care home.
I know, all my life, and we work for nice stuff. But I had to just come in, she'd come in, she used to poke her nose around and that. She couldn't wait to see what we had when she came in. But like I say, she was the worst. Like she didn't help me, she didn't help him, she didn't help the kids. Like nothing. Horrible.
This podcast should have been titled more Probation, the effects of probation and what they've done, because that's obviously the way it's going. But all them years, anyone who's on licence, especially the IPPs, they'll be sitting watching this because I'm going to broadcast this on the IPP channel for people to watch, and you lot watching this back at home will relate to what we're talking about here and the pressures that you're facing from probation. But now that I'm free from probation, I can speak my mind, I can talk about them, I can tell them that the dogs without worrying about a recall, because that's what happens when I've started my channel up. They've even half threatened us with recall because of my channel, because of the videos that I do. Even though I was doing out wrong, they didn't like that I had a massive following. I've got over 100,000 followers across all my social medias, and it has absolutely killed them seeing my success with the amount of people that's following us and liking me stuff. But what I will say before we go on, like obviously, since I'm getting off my license, I have talked a little bit more abruptly, like with me demeanour, maybe swearing a little bit more and talking about probation and stuff. But that doesn't change the person I am. When you've been watching my channel from the start, since I've getting off license, nothing is changing in my life since I've finished with my license. I'm not going to...
Often for the better.
For the better. I'm not going to go back to the way I was. A lot of people are expecting it because of how I've always been, but I'm not going to change the person I am just because I'm off license. I'm going to propel even further and kill them with success.
What doesn't break you makes you stronger.
Like I say, we've been through a lot, we've faced adversity, and we're not coming on pretending to be victims because of this sentence, but the IPP does turn the perpetrator into the victim, because all of the ones that are stuck inside now, even yourself in when you've been watching, it's heartbreaking seeing.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
The lads that are suffering, I'm not just lads, lasses, there's girls committing suicide in prison as well, because they're suffering with mental health and they can't behave themselves properly in prison. Some of them got ADHD, autism, they've got all sorts of different mental health issues, and they're not getting the proper help that they need, and they can't behave. So when they're retaliating or telling screws to fuck off or whatever, and they're getting knocked back for this, I mean, 15, 16 years for offences that were non-violent just doesn't comprehend what's actually going on in there. There's people that's committed murders getting out before these people that have committed non-violent offences. They might have used threatening and violent behaviour, but they haven't physically used violence, and they've been given an IPP, and they're in there 18 years later on a 2-year tariff, and murderers are getting in and out before them. How can you comprehend something like that?
We're on that IPP page, and the stories on there, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, Ricky's one of the lucky ones, because obviously he's got a family, he's getting out, he's married. Like, some of them, like he says, are still stuck in there. It's awful, like, absolutely heartbreaking.
Suffering years on end, they've been abused by the system from a young age and then given an IPP.
Cutting themselves and all sorts of stuff.
An unjust sentence, and they haven't got the help and support on the outside. Like I've been fortunate enough to have this diamond of a wife who's always been there for me and always been my protector and looked after us when I've been suffering as well. And if you haven't got that sort of support, then I don't know where your life will end up. A lot of them have committed suicide. Over 90 people have committed suicide on IPPs in prison, and a load more on the outside in fear of recall back to prison on this sentence that was deemed inhumane. I mean, that's a lot of lives and a lot of families that have suffered because of this. And obviously a lot of people have suffered because of the offences that they committed. And we all know they deserved prison. We all deserved prison for what we'd done.
Not that.
But we didn't deserve to have that sort of sentence for not killing anybody. You get that sort of sentence when you've committed murder, not for committing offences like we did.
It's terrible, like, absolutely terrible. Like he says, he's one of the lucky ones, because he's getting out and has got all he's got. Some of them are still sitting in there. It's awful.
Like I said, when you're coming up for paroles and stuff in prison, it's pure mental torture. And then when your loved one's outside asking what's happening on your hearing when you're getting out, my 2 youngest kids were 2 and 3 at the time on my recall, and when they were saying, "Dad, when you're coming home," I couldn't give them a straight answer. But what I will say is that did change me. That made me sort myself out and think, right, what can I do not to put myself in this situation again? Because when you've got kids outside and something like that happens, you get recalled to prison and you're stuck in there, not knowing if you're going to get out. If you get into a fight in prison, I could have still been in there now. If I didn't use my head kept my head down, got on with my time. If I got into trouble, started using drugs to cope with the way I was feeling, which a lot of people do, and I can understand why, because it is a head fuck being in there on a recall, on IPP. It is physically and mentally draining, and if you're not strong, you will turn to drugs to cope, and then you won't get released. That's why a lot of them are still in, because they're using drugs to cope with the sentence.
Luckily you just did your fitness, didn't you?
Got into my fitness, got myself fit both physically and mentally. I was at the bottom, and I come to terms with everything, come to terms with my friends' suicides and the family suicides, and had a good long hard look at myself and thought I need to get myself back out there and be the best father and best husband to my wife and kids, and that's exactly what I'm doing. But like I say, when you're in that situation, you've just got to keep your head on, because if you get into fights in prison, or if a screw is purposely antagonising you, which does happen in prison, and you react in a violent manner, or even say fuck off and get put behind your door and start booting the fuck out your door, you get rid up and you paid 16. Mr. Clean has acted in a violent manner, told the officers to fuck off. You come up on a parole hearing, the parole antagonise you, interrogate you to see why you've done this behaviour. But if you can't keep your cool, the parole board are doing this purposely to see how you react. And some of the lads don't know how to react, don't know how to express themselves, and then they're turning around, maybe telling the parole to go and do one, and the parole is just blatantly saying, bang, rejected, another 12 months to 18 months before you're up for another hearing. And that's the challenges that they're facing inside. But like I say, I'm headstrong, I've had my head screwed on, and I know how to keep me cool, and I'm getting back out, and I'm living my best life. My IPP is terminated, and I'm broadcasting it on here, letting everyone know just how bad and horrific the sentence actually is. But again, obviously we've come on for you to give your side of the story here. But we're going to be wrapping it up soon, we're just making it a short one. But what would you say to the families out there that have got loved ones in prison and they're waiting for them to come out? Or what advice can you give families of IPPs?
Just keep them strong, just keep them positive, because I'm telling you, like, that's what they need when they're in there. I know first hand how like down they can be when they're in there. But if you keep them positive on the phone and sending them emails, and just keep them as positive as you can, because like he says, it's a really bad, like, in there, mental torture. So I know we're getting mentally tortured on the outside, but we're on the outside in our own homes. You've just got to keep them positive, and they will get out. They will come back here.
And it's going to be hard when they get released as well and come out, especially the ones that have done 18 years. Because when you get back out here, even though I had a wife and kids to come back to,
strange, isn't it?
The first few nights, you cannot sleep. You've got anxiety running through your body, your mind, and it is hard and it's challenging. But them feelings do go, and you've just got to focus on all the good stuff.
It's hard for us to watch as well, because you're thinking, he's out and he's quiet, or he's thinking that, but obviously what he's just said, like, you have anxiety and everything when you get out. But it's like hard for the people that love them when they first get out as well.
But sometimes when you're released as well and you come back out here and your loved ones are looking at you, especially if you've got a partner, the partners have got to understand that you're still suffering inside in your head. Because if your partner's looking at you and you're acting a bit funny or you're a bit quiet, and they're thinking in their head that there's something the matter with the relationship, it's not the relationship. It's the relationship up here with the IPP that they're trying to comprehend and cope with. So them partners, it could ruin the relationship, thinking that it's something to do with the relationship. So they have got to understand what's going on inside their head. And the best way to do it is sit and talk about it.
Yeah, I agree, because they are quiet and that when you come out. Because I was thinking one time when he first got out, I was thinking, does he even want to be here? Because he's asked. But then obviously, as the years went on, I realised it's up here that's not back to normal. It's not like the relationship or anything. It's what he's been through when he's inside, because they've been tortured.
Because when I first got released after serving 5 years, obviously I got out and I came straight home. We'd never lived together before properly. We'd never lived together before. I was 20 when I went in, got out when I was 25. But just moved straight in together without even living with people before. because of obviously our young age when I went into prison, and we just jumped straight into the relationship. We got serious when I was serving the IPP. Then when I got out, we got straight into the relationship, living together, and even sleeping in the same bed. I couldn't sleep for weeks. It took us weeks. Still lying there at 5 o'clock in the morning, tossing and turning because it was so strange and not used to it. And obviously Michaela was thinking that.
I didn't want to be.
I didn't want to be there.
I was thinking, does he even want to be here and that? Cause
and then she did react once and sent us a message saying, why don't you just go back to your mum's? And that could have been the end of the relationship, because I started getting defensive and I started feeling even worse. The anxiety inside of us was worse. And
I didn't understand at the time, because I was only 25 myself. I didn't understand. But then obviously when he explained, like he said, if you talk about it, like I would have known. But Ricky being Ricky didn't want to tell us how he was feeling. But now we do. We tell each other how we feel all the time.
What, 14 years later?
4 kids, 14 years later.
4 kids, married, living our best life. We've been through a lot, and I mean a lot more than what most people go through. But we're stuck by each other, got through it all. And like I say, look at us now. We're in here in Portugal. Alcohol and drug free. Because obviously before I went to prison when I was 20, I thought I used to take what I would call recreational drugs, coke, cannabis, drinking all the time. But obviously now we're off the drink, living our best life. We're even going to go up onto the strip in Portugal on the zero alcohol.
Might have a couple of Red Bulls, you know, we don't know that.
But still, we're not missing out on anything, because we will talk a little bit about alcohol since we're on the subject. Alcohol has played a massive role in my life, as in a downfall, because alcohol changes me into a different person, and I noticed this, and this is why I steer clear from it.
We're not bothered about touching it again, to be honest. Like he says, it changes them, it changes anybody, but we're just better people when we have a drink.
Sometimes if you're in certain company, you've had a lot of drink, you see things in a different light, I can react in a violent manner, and that's not what I want in my life, because it leads you back to prison. Obviously, the ones that have been following my channel, you can see what type of person I am, the ones that come to my gym. I like helping people, not hurting people.
He does.
So, for me, I've got to stay away from alcohol, and stay away from, not so much stay away from them type of places as well, because we're still going up and having a bit of fun and seeing people pissed up and having a laugh and doing a bit of people watching.
I was mid last night, we went up last night, and you know when you're sober, where people think you've had a drink because you're laughing on and that, they think you've had a drink and it's just mint, the atmosphere is just totally different.
So we'll still go out, have a laugh, come back, have some scran, go to sleep, wake up, fresh as out.
In an all-inclusive hotel, which we've never been on legal holiday in bloody 19 years over.
We've done a 10-mile walk this morning.
We ain't even out of breath. We've been mountain climbing and that, so it's us.
But like I say, leading up to me recall, it was a stressful time with them probation, and getting back on the subject of probation, they do try and ruin your life if they take a dislike to you. But what I will say is, because I was going to do a video talking about probation, not this one here, but I was going to do a separate video, or I am still going to do one, talking about probation, the effects of them, and what they do to you. But I will say there is the odd few that have been decent. I've had about 10 probation officers over the year.
The
latest one that I've had her for 12 months, and she recommended me to come off my licence, and that makes or plays a massive role when you're coming up for parole hearings and your probation officer can't actually see that you changed all the good that you're doing. So
she could see what a nice person you were, didn't she? That's what she said.
And I know they all watch me videos, they'll be watching this, the coppers are watching, the probation's watching, or there's loads of prison staff watch me channel. So I'm not going to come on here and be a cunt and just say all of probation are pure dogs, because they're not. The majority that I've had are, and the majority that everyone else that I speak to, their probation officers are exactly the same. They've got too much power. They've got the power of judges and magistrates, where they can go or they can issue a recall and have you sent back to prison without even committing a criminal offence. If you have a dislike with them, they make your life a hell, you react, tell them to do one or whatever, or tell them that you don't like them, they can just say, right, I don't like you either. They're all stick together in that probation, issue your recall, the manager stamps it, you're sent back to prison without committing an offence, just having a disagreement, and you're stuck in there for sometimes years on end, waiting to get back out.
It's supposed to be rehabilitation.
It's supposed to help with your rehabilitation.
That's the word I was looking for. Rehabilitation, that's what's supposed to be helping with. It didn't help out like that.
Not deterioration, because that's what they do. They make your mind deteriorate when they talk to you and treat you the way they do. They want you
to fail.
They want you back. They want you in and out of jail.
Keep them in a job.
The lads that are in trouble all the time, the ones that are drug addicts, that are in and out all the time in probation, they treat better than the lads that are drug free and the ones that are keeping themselves out of trouble and moving on with their life. If you are moving on with your life and you don't need the help of probation, they'll be on your back. They don't like it. And this is true facts. You can speak with people that's been inside a prison. There was a lad who was just getting off his licence. He had a 10-year licence. He changed his mindset when he was in jail, got out, had a lass, had a kid, got his own haulage firm, been out for, like I say, 10 years, and he done well for himself, and probation were on his back, something rotten, when he was grafting his arse off every day with his own company, and they didn't like it because he was more successful and had more money than them. And they even went and had the cheek when he had his last visit to probation, and they said, your license coming to an end next week, you're off your license completely, there's no need for you to come back in. And they turned around and said to him, will you come in and do some work with probation, helping offenders? They wanted, after the way they treated him, they wanted the reward to say that they helped with his rehabilitation, and will you come and work with us? He turned around and laughed at them and said, if you hadn't treated us the way you would have, I would have. That's what you've got to put up with on a licence.
Mental torture.
But probably wrap this one up now. Spoke quite a bit. It wasn't a podcast about our life and stuff because
we've already done one.
We've done that one, but I will put that at the end of this video if you want to go and watch it. But we will do future uploads about the IPPs, the IPP families, keeping you all updated and letting you know what is going on. Any final words, Miss or Mrs. Colleen?
I am lovely speaking to you all and watching us.
But take care, everyone.
I get tongue-tied, me.
Keep an eye on your loved ones in prison, the ones on licence. And when they get out, make sure they're on the straight and narrow.
Just give
them
positive
the support that they need. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.